If I told you right now to drop your blood pressure by like nearly 9 points, what would you do? You'd probably think about lacing up your running shoes or
Right.
overhauling your diet
Right.
or maybe even calling your doctor for new medication.
Right, yeah. We are totally conditioned to think of cardiovascular health as this highly mechanical physical process. Like you put in the physical strain, you sweat, you restrict your calories, and then you get a result.
Exactly. It's all about friction.
Yeah, the assumption is that protecting your heart requires this palpable effort. So the idea that a completely invisible, intangible stimulus could actually cause a measurable change in our physiology, it's really counterintuitive for most of us.
But that is exactly what we are unpacking in this deep dive today. We're
Mm.
looking at the surprising physiological power of sound.
It is a really fascinating area of research.
It really is. We're asking this pivotal question for you in your daily routine, which is, can the simple, totally passive act of just listening to a relaxing playlist actually rival the outcomes of traditional medical interventions?
To figure that out, we're going to dig into a 2020 randomized controlled trial. This was published in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension.
Right, by a pretty diverse team of researchers, I believe.
Yeah, it was driven by researchers across multiple institutions, mostly featuring teams from Monash University, Malaysia, and Hiroshima University. And we'll also pull in some contemporary health research literature to see how you can actually apply this science to your own life.
So our mission today is basically to decode the mechanics of sound. We want to know if putting on a pair of headphones is a legitimate, scientifically backed way to protect your heart health, especially for, young adults dealing with modern stress.
And to understand why the researchers specifically targeted young adults with this auditory intervention, we kind of need to talk about the hidden epidemic they were trying to fix.
Right. Let's get into that. What exactly were they looking at?
So the clinical target here is pre-hypertension, specifically in the 18 to 25-year-old demographic.
Pre-hypertension, so not full-blown high blood pressure.
Exactly. We're looking at a group with systolic pressures, that's the top number, between a 120 and 139. Or their diastolic pressure, the bottom number, is hovering in that 80 to 89 range.
Okay, so it's not the fully pathological state of clinical hypertension.
No, but it is this really critical transitional phase. And the scary part is it often goes entirely unnoticed because these are young, otherwise healthy-feeling people.
Which makes it essentially a statistical ticking clock. I was looking at the data from this study, and it shows that over just a 4-year period, up to 19% of pre-hypertensive individuals will progress to full hypertension.
Yeah, nearly 1 in 5.
Right. A 19% progression rate for a 20-year-old means they could be facing lifelong vascular disease before they even hit 30. That is wild.
It really is. And the prevalence is what makes this a massive public health issue, not just a clinical curiosity.
How common are we talking?
Well, the researchers cite data showing that in certain university student populations, pre-hypertension rates sit at an astonishing 42.9%.
Wait, almost half.
Almost half the student body, yeah, operating with compromised vascular baselines.
That is just, it's like a blinking check engine light on the dashboard of a brand new car.
That's a great way to put it.
Like you're still driving, the engine sounds totally fine, and it's so easy to just ignore the light. But underneath the hood, the system is under this chronic low-grade strain. And if you leave it unattended, it's going to break down.
And adding to that strain is the genetic factor. Over 50% of the young adults they recruited for this specific trial had a documented family history of hypertension.
Oh, wow. So the deck is already stacked against them.
Exactly. So to use your car analogy, not only is the check engine light flashing, but these kids inherited a vehicle that's already predisposed to engine failure. They literally don't have the luxury of waiting until middle age to worry about their blood pressure.
Right. They need an intervention right now, but it has to be highly accessible.
Hmm.
Think about a stressed university student or a young professional working 60-hour weeks. They need something they can actually integrate into their lives.
And that need for accessibility is exactly why the research team built this specific trial around music.
The methodology is actually super interesting, especially how they structured the environmental controls. So they recruited 30 pre-hypertensive young adults, right?
Yes, 30 participants. And they split them evenly into 2 cohorts. So a music group of 15 and a control group of 15.
But before they even introduced the music, they had to establish a really strict baseline.
Right. They put both groups on the DAH eating plan.
Which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension.
Right. Exactly. It's a really aggressive, heart-healthy diet. Lots of fruits, vegetables, low-fat dairy. But they didn't just stop at the food choices.
No, they went hard on the sodium. They strictly capped sodium intake for both groups at 100 millimoles per day.
Which sounds abstract, but to put that into a real-world metric for you, 100 millimoles is basically 2,300 milligrams.
Right, so essentially 1 teaspoon of table salt for the entire day.
Yeah, which is incredibly low for a modern diet. And on top of that, they told both groups to completely abstain from any physical activity or exercise for the whole 4-week study.
Okay, wait. I have a glaring question about this setup.
Sure, what is it?
If both the control group and the music group are on this super strict DASH diet, and they're dropping their sodium to a single teaspoon a day, isn't that diet alone going to massively improve their vascular health?
You would think so, right?
Yeah. So how can the researchers possibly know if the music is doing anything? The baseline protocol is already an aggressive blood pressure treatment.
Well, that's actually the brilliance of the study design. It's all about comparative outcomes.
Okay, explain that.
Because the control group is doing the exact same diet and sodium restriction, any changes in their blood pressure represent the baseline effect of the diet over 4 weeks.
Ah, I see.
Right, so if the music group shows a delta, a difference in their final numbers that statistically beats the control group, then that extra drop can only be from the music. The control group basically cancels out the diet as a variable.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The diet sets the floor, and the control group proves whether the music can actually push the results through that floor.
Exactly. So with all those variables locked down, the actual intervention was elegantly simple.
They just put them in a room with headphones, right?
Pretty much. The music group went into a quiet, temperature-controlled environment and just passively listened to a track called The Best Relaxing Piano and Flute Music Ever.
What a title.
I know, right? It was this instrumental track layered over natural ocean sounds.
And the protocol was, what, 30 minutes a day?
30 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 4 consecutive weeks. No meditation required, no deep breathing exercises, just passively listening to the audio.
Okay, so 4 weeks go by, the diet variables are neutralized by the control group.
Yeah.
And the resulting data is, it's striking.
It really is. The music group saw their systolic blood pressure drop by an average of 8.73 millimeters of mercury.
That is massive. They went from a pre-hypertensive average of 128.67 straight down into an optimal, healthy zone at 119.94.
And their heart rates dropped too, by 6.42 beats per minute.
Okay, but what about the control group? The ones who just did the diet and no music?
This is the crazy part. The control group's systolic blood pressure dropped by a microscopic 0.21 milliliters of mercury.
Basically nothing.
Exactly. And their heart rates went down by just 0.09 beats per minute. The diet alone over that specific 4-week window did almost nothing to their resting metrics.
That is staggering. An almost 9-point drop in systolic pressure just from an auditory stimulus.
Yeah, it's wild.
A drop like that is what you expect when someone starts taking a pharmacological ACE inhibitor, or if they commit to, brutal high-intensity interval training every single day.
Right, and these kids got the exact same vascular outcome just by sitting back and letting sound waves hit their ears for half an hour a day.
It's incredible.
Wow.
But there is a little bit of nuance here we should talk about, right? The difference between the top and bottom numbers.
Yes, that's a crucial point. We've been talking about the systolic pressure, the top number, which is the arterial force during a heartbeat.
Right. But what about the diastolic pressure?
So the diastolic pressure, the bottom number, representing the resistance between beats, did drop in the music group by 1.44 points. But the researchers noted it wasn't statistically significant.
Okay, so the top number plummets, but the bottom number stays pretty much anchored.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the coolest part of this deep dive, the mechanism. How on earth does a sound wave just vibrating against your eardrum somehow translate into your blood vessels relaxing?
To understand that, we have to look at the neurobiology. So when sound waves enter your ear, those mechanical vibrations get turned into electrical signals by the hair cells in your cochlea, right?
Right, standard biology so far.
Yeah, and those signals travel up the auditory nerve. But here's the magic. They don't just go to the auditory cortex to figure out what the sound is. They heavily innervate the limbic system, specifically the amygdala and the hippocampus.
Wait, the limbic system? That's the emotional and behavioral processing center of the brain, right? The part that's constantly scanning the room for danger.
Yes, and the limbic system is intimately connected to your autonomic nervous system.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the autonomic nervous system controls your baseline state through two competing branches. You've got the sympathetic drive, which is your fight or flight response.
That's the one that dumps adrenaline and spikes your heart rate.
Exactly. It aggressively constricts your blood vessels so you're ready for action. But then you have the parasympathetic drive, mostly governed by the vagus nerve. That's your rest and digest state. It slows the heart and dilates the blood vessels.
So for a 20-something dealing with exams, rent, and bad sleep, that sympathetic drive is just constantly cranked up.
Totally. Their limbic system thinks they're under constant attack, which keeps their blood vessels squeezed tight, driving up the blood pressure.
So is the ear basically a biological backdoor to the nervous system?
That's exactly what it is. The acoustic profile of that piano and flute track bypasses the higher cognitive filters and just directly calms down that limbic hyperactivity. Yeah, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which slams the brakes on the fight or flight response. Plus, this kind of music actually increases dopamine in the brain, which further reduces anxiety and slows everything down.
Are we basically hacking our dopamine levels to force the heart to calm down?
We really are. You're inducing a neurochemical cascade from the outside that changes your blood vessels on the inside.
That completely explains the difference between the systolic and diastolic results, too.
Yes, exactly. Systolic blood pressure is super sensitive to that sympathetic fight or flight drive. It reacts almost instantly to stress or relaxation.
But the diastolic pressure is more structural, right?
Right, it's tied to the physical resistance of the arterial walls and blood volume. So shutting down the nervous system overdrive drops the systolic immediately, but changing the diastolic baseline probably takes way longer than 4 weeks.
The music is basically just intercepting this electrical overload in the brain and pulling these young adults out of the danger zone.
Yes, it addresses the acute dysfunction happening right now.
Okay, so understanding the science is great, but how do you actually apply this 4-week protocol to your real life? I'm guessing we don't need a perfectly silent, temperature-controlled laboratory.
No, thankfully. The health blogs we looked at emphasize that absolute isolation isn't the active ingredient. The real secret sauce is consistency.
Consistency.
Okay.
So doing it every day.
Right. These changes didn't happen overnight. It was 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Just like you have to lift weights repeatedly to build muscle, you have to engage the vagus nerve repeatedly to train your nervous system to stay calm.
And practically speaking, how do you fit that in?
Modern tech makes it easy. You can use comfortable neck speakers or noise-canceling headphones. The goal is to overlay this auditory pacemaker onto whatever environment you're already in, whether you're on the train or just making dinner.
Okay, I have a big pushback here, though, about the music itself.
Let's hear it.
The researchers used piano, flutes, and ocean sounds because it matched the cultural preferences of the participants, right? So what if my personal definition of relaxing is like a super intense heavy metal album, or intense EDM, or even a true crime podcast? Does the brain care what the audio is as long as I like it?
That is a great question. But yes, the brain absolutely cares. We have to differentiate between psychological entertainment and physiological entrainment.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, you might mentally love heavy metal, but the sheer acoustic energy, the volume spikes, and the rapid tempo will automatically trigger sympathetic arousal in your body.
So even if I'm enjoying it, my nervous system thinks I'm in danger.
Exactly. Your analytical brain is having fun, but your limbic system is prepping for a fight. To hack the parasympathetic system, the audio literally has to have a slow, rhythmic, non-demanding profile.
The tempo have to be slow.
Ideally mirroring a resting heart rate, so between 60 to 80 beats per minute. That allows the cardiovascular system to physically sync up with the rhythm.
Which explains why podcasts don't work for this?
Right. Podcasts, even really casual ones, require complex cognitive processing. You're analyzing syntax, following an argument, laughing at a joke.
And all that brain power requires blood flow, which keeps you out of that deep rest and digest state.
Exactly. Auditory relaxation for heart health means taking away the cognitive burden completely. No lyrics, no jarring drums, just predictable frequencies like ocean waves to signal profound safety to the brain.
So the protocol is super clear. If you want that 9-point drop, you need 30 minutes a day of slow-tempo, non-demanding audio. It's a biological tool, not just background entertainment.
It really is a non-pharmacological shield for your art.
Which is incredible. But, understanding how much mechanical power sound has over our blood vessels leaves me with this final kind of unsettling thought.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
If just 30 minutes of deliberate, relaxing music can lower your blood pressure that much in a month, What is the constant low-grade background noise of modern life doing to us?
Wow, yeah. We live in an acoustic landscape of sirens, traffic, notifications buzzing, loud open plan offices.
Exactly. We are passively consuming a junk food audio diet all day long. And if good sound is a cardiovascular therapy, then chaotic noise is probably a chronic stressor, just keeping our nervous systems in a constant state of alarm and driving our blood pressure up without us even realizing it.
That's a really powerful way to look at it.
It makes you think. Before you focus entirely on your physical diet or your gym routine, you might want to take a really hard look at the acoustic environment you're feeding your brain. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.